Engines always get the blame for the rising cost in racing, but reality is, everything's more expensive. Hello and welcome back to the Cunningham Custom Engines YouTube channel. I'm your host Travis Cunningham, and this is episode 9. This episode we're going to talk about the cost of racing. This thing right here, the engine, always gets blamed for the rising costs in racing, and I think a lot of the reason is a lot of people can't do the work on them themselves, which is true, and they're hard to work on, that's for sure. Definitely take a lot of expertise, but everything in racing has gotten more expensive. Shocks, tires, hotels, fuel, trucks, trailers, you name it. Rear ends, front ends, spindles, steering box. Everyone's got titanium, everything. Like, Smith Titanium makes amazing stuff, but no one talks about the $5,000 front end they have. Like, that's crazy, and I see some people have those in there. It's all about your budget and how badly you want to race, if you ask me. My hero car is the 69K, Donnie Kreitz car. Look at the $200 AFCO shocks on that thing all the way around, non-adjustable. They probably don't have all that many. And when I roll the pits at Oshweekon, or a lot of local tracks around here, I see cars with double adjustable FKs and Slades and $2,000 Canadian shocks everywhere. And yeah, I was pricing some QA1s this week, and they're around $350 for us. And yeah, like if you're a local racer, do you really need the $2,000 shocks all the way around? Do you really need a trailer full of wheels and stuff like that? So you got to pick what kind of racer you want to be. A good example about engines is, this is a good way to burn yourself out engine-wise. A lot of local racers come in, they run the crates, they do good, they get good feelings, they move up, they buy a cheaper engine, which is, if you're a local racer and you're not trying to be like one of the big teams around here, you're just trying to race and have fun, my example would be to buy a cheaper engine that needs a rebuild, and don't take it to one of the bigger names. Find a local engine builder that you trust that's going to go through and not just throw every part in the garbage. Like national style engine builders, they have to do that. They don't want any failures and stuff like that, which I totally agree. Follow Charlie Fisher on Instagram. That is the greatest follow on Instagram if you're an engine builder, in my opinion. And if you're running a business at that style, I agree that is. But if you're a local racer, ask yourself, do you need that? Are you racing at slick tracks that are small and stuff like that? Are you buying an engine for Knoxville weekly when you race a short quarter mile that gets slick weekly? So maybe if you spent $60,000 on that engine, you didn't really need it, because a lot of guys come into the 360s, buy that cheaper engine, like I say, run pretty good, get into the top 10 a few times, and then now I want to win. And they go out and buy the big expensive engine and with the big expensive rebuilds in it. End of the day, it only moves them up a couple places, because now you got to hook that car up better and all that stuff. So if you got to just pick what kind of racer you are. Are you that high buck racer that wants to go for the wins and go for that? Like, if you're going to race a 360 sprint car in this day and age, you have to ask yourself that, especially on the local level. That's for sure. That's why car counts are dwindling, because people just go in too hard, and next thing you know, their bank account's at minus 60,000, and they got to back out. They got to sell everything. But if you want to keep going like me, and lots of other local racers that I know around here, like John Burbage is a good example. Like, he's not going to win every Friday, but he's out there, and sometimes he cracks close to the top 10. And around here, it pays the same from the bottom to 11th. So is that big expensive engine gonna save you for making an extra $50 if you finish 9th instead of 10th? That's just the kind of stuff you got to think about. And if you take your engine to a national level engine builder, they're not going to care about the cheaper style or maybe parts that are a little more used. They're just going to throw them out, which is fine, and I agree with if I was at that style. But sometimes valves and valve springs, if you're only running 15 races a year on slick little bull rings, maybe you can get away with pistons once or another rebuild. Maybe you can get away with valves, another rebuild. I've done it my whole life, and I've only had one catastrophic engine failure, which I told you last week. So there is a way to do it cheaper, and like, everyone blames the engine, and now we got this LS option, which is 27,000 Canadian, and my friend Dan Price built one for his UMP, which was, I'd say, close to 10,000 cheaper than that. So, and the problem with, I'm all for the LS option, just the only thing I don't like about it is, like, I wouldn't be able to build one. I'm not on the approved engine sheet, so how's that cheaper for me? So I got to stick with my ASCS 360, even though I could easily build one of those LS engines for myself, but I can't. So to me, this option is still cheaper for that local guy that can work on his own stuff. When my dad's engine shop was at its peak, it made a ton of money because there was a bunch of engine guys, or a bunch of local guys that would work on their own engines and torque them together themselves and take all the stuff to him for the machining, and that's what I do. My boy Rob Becker has a beautiful machine shop up in Port Colborne, and he does all my machining. I know it's perfect when I come back here and I just assemble it. The parts are so good these days. Like, it's not 1980 where you got to go through every valve spring and deburr them and stuff. There is tiny little stuff like that you still have to do, but the parts are just so much better these days that, in my opinion, a local guy that's smart can assemble his own stuff. If you have a local machine shop that you're comfortable with and trust. That's Rob Becker, my boy. Love you, Rob. And so yeah, engines always get the blame. That was a pretty good rant. And like, look at this shock right here. It's a Pro shock. Double adjustable. On the rebound side, this thing's probably $1,000 US, or $1,000 Canadian by the time we get it here. And like I said, I'm switching to my AFCOs, which I bought for $200 a piece, and they're rebound adjustable, and now I can work on them myself, and that's the plan. And then I might get into the QA1 business, because Nick Sheridan tipped me off on those. I asked him, what shock would you run if it was the cheapest one, and he said QA1. I was just looking for the actual cheapest shock, and he told me about his late model guys that run the QA1s, which was pretty cool, and I'm going to have to look into that as well, because that's what I want to do. I just want to show you guys like the cheapest way to do it, and still have a shot at top 10s and even top 5s if you do it right. But the way to do it, you can't be lazy. Like, you can't want to go in and play Xbox. You got to decide you want to race, and you want to race bad, and you want to race more than you want to do anything else. Like, that's how you get good at anything. And if you want to be a video game player, go be a video game player. That's fine, but just don't blame the cost of racing, because in my opinion, everything you do is expensive, especially as an adult. If racing isn't your hobby, you're just going to go camping or do something else, and next thing you know, you have a $65,000 camper trailer that, let's be honest, the roof's going to leak in 3 years if you're not up on it. So engines always get the blame for the cost of racing, and it's true. They are super expensive, and I can't even afford my own engines half the time with the parts. So that's why I got to keep rolling with styles like Billy's engine, which has been rolling since 2008. Same pistons. They're right over there. We just kept 1, 2, 3 honing it and out, and regrinding the valves, put new valves in a couple times, put a set of cheap rods in. It's literally been going since 2008, and the block finally cracked. And it was a 60 over 010 block that I've literally been waiting for it to crack for 5 years, and it finally did it, because 60 over is too far to go on an 010. This 010 is 40, so see how that goes. And there we go. TC rant over about the cost of engines and everything. Everything is more expensive in racing. Crate engines now are $10,000 when they started at $3,000. And pickup trucks barely use them anymore, so that 602 crate engine is basically a racing engine now with stamped steel parts and stuff. So it's almost gotten too far the other way. Now we're paying big money for crate engines. When, yeah, there's lots of crates around here, but there's also lots of 305s in the New York State area, the CSRAs, and you can rebuild those engines yourself if you really wanted to, and they're really easy to work on. So there's both ways to go. Engines always get the blame. Are you one of those people that always blames the engines? Maybe you should look at all the other stuff on your car. Do you have the most expensive shocks? Because every shock has the same graph, like I say. So you can make any shock say, you can buy a used shock, dyno it, and it's going to say the same graph as your $2,000 double adjustable for your weekly show. This is not a national tour talk. This is about local people racing, which is where local racing is in danger. National tour racing is never going to go away, and it's skyrocketing like crazy. But local level is different. And this was my rant about how everything is expensive. Don't just blame the engine. Work hard on your program. Find the cheapest way to do it, the best way to do it for cheap. Cheap is a relative, but you know how I'm saying it. Rant over. Thanks for watching this episode of Cunningham Custom Engines. I'm Travis Cunningham. We'll see you next week. Well, that was one heck of a rant. If you've made it this far, thank you. You've definitely got it bad like me. Definitely like sprint cars. Like the video, comment on the video. That stuff helps more than you guys think, especially the comments and the likes. Subscribe if you haven't. We're really pushing that 500 mark. So thanks to everyone for subscribing to this channel. It's been super fun doing this for you. I really enjoyed that rant. Hopefully it stirs up some conversation in the comments. Respond right here. Tell me I'm dumb if you think that's what you think. Look at this hat. Beauty. Man, do I love vintage racing stuff. Look at the rope job on that. Anyway, thank you. See you next week. Like, subscribe, comment.